Hey guys, Hamsterwheel here with a new video, and welcome to episode 3 of Gearing for Dungeoneering. A video series where we go over what gear your class can get to make sure you can pull your weight in level 70 normal dungeons and heroics. Today we're going to talk about the Hunter class and see what items we can get in order to get this Hunter with crappy gear to a stage where he has respectable gear and be able to do some proper damage. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, now currently this Hunter is definitely in need of some upgrades, with lackluster damage, attack power and all that jazz. When you put it to the test, it does a very mediocre 480.8 DPS, so there's definitely room for improvement. Now as always, let's work our magic, and there we go. That's looking much better. So what items did I decide to give this Hunter? Well, let's check it out. Alright, and we're starting off with the Headpiece, and we're going to go with a staple of this series, and that is the Helmet of Second Sight. This time it is the Hunter version, a male headpiece with 12 stamina, 31 agility, 8 intellect, 3 blue sockets, a socket bonus of 8 attack power, 60 attack power, and 4 mana every 5 seconds. So all in all, a great headpiece for your Hunter, and compared to the gear that you get in normal 70 dungeons or heroics, this is actually on par, or with the right gems even better. So definitely an item worth getting. There is one thing to note though, and that is that you do need a flyer to complete this quest. So either have a flying mount or have a friend to port you over a warlock to summon you on the island and then complete the quest that way. If you don't have a flyer or you can't find a warlock to summon you over, I do have a cheaper and very simple to get alternative. And that is the Crown of Cinders, which has 21 agility, 20 intellect, 30 stamina, 40 attack power, and 8 mana every 5 seconds. So, you know, clearly not as good as the Helmet of Second Sight, but as I said, you don't need a flyer for this, and it's much easier to obtain. So there you go, that's what I would recommend for the headpiece. For the neck piece, I'm going to recommend Talon Lord's Collar, which is neck with 19 stamina, 21 hit rating, and 38 attack power. This is from the same quest that gives you the Torque of the Sethek Prophet that I recommended for the Balanced Druid or the Elemental Shaman. It's a very simple quest to complete, and it provides you with a necklace that is on par with what you can get out of level 70 normal dungeons, and sometimes even 70 heroics, so definitely worth getting. Next up are the shoulders, which are the Earthmender's Crimson Spalders, 16 agility, 8 intellect, 12 stamina, and a pretty damn nice 60 attack power. So all in all, very nice green shoulders, nice stats, hard on the offensive side with that 60 attack power, and also fairly easy to obtain, so it's not gonna take you ages to get this item. So a good bang for your buck, so to say, and that is what I recommend for these shoulders. And then we move on to the Cloak, which is the Dawn Strike's Cloak, a green cloak with 12 agility, 9 hit rating, and 42 attack power. So for a green item, not too shabby, provides you with a lot of offensive stats, 12 agility and 42 attack power, as well as a little bit of hit rating, which is always a welcome sight. It's also pretty easy to get, so yeah, that's definitely what I recommend in terms of the Cloak for your freshly dinked level 70 Hunter. Then we move on to the chest piece, which is the Bone Chewer's Berserker's Vest. Male chest piece with 13 intellect, 15 stamina, 14 agility, 4 mana every 5 seconds, and a pretty large 72 attack power. So all in all, a pretty damn nice blue chest piece for your Hunter. And the great thing is you can get this fairly early on. It takes place in Hellfire Peninsula, and it's part of a pretty easy quest chain, so not a super long quest chain involved with getting tons of people for this quest. So all in all, definitely worth getting for your Hunter. Fairly easy to obtain, lots of offensive stats. So yeah, definitely a great addition to your new Hunter. Then we move on to the Spymistress Wrist Guards, which are leather bracers with 18 agility, 15 stamina, a red socket, and the socket bonus is 2 dodge rating and 15 hit rating. So, you know, that socket bonus, not really that interesting, though, you know, you got a red socket, you can throw some pure agility in there, which is really nice for Hunters. And, you know, they're overall saying they're not too bad. You know, you got your 18 agility, a fair amount of hit rating too, which is going to be pretty nice when you eventually get to heroics, and you're going to rely more on hit rating. So all in all, I'd say it's a decent item. Doesn't take a whole lot of time to get. All it requires you to do is do a quest in Shadow Labs. So basically in one Shadow Labs run you can get this and have yourself a pretty nice, decent set of bracers for your Hunter. Then we move on to the weapons. Now for the weapon, I'm going to recommend this one, the Terex Quill. Very simple weapon in terms of stats, but very effective as well. It has 54 agility and 33 stamina, so hard on the offensive stats. Going to offer you a lot of attack power and a lot of crit rating. It will require you to do a full run of Sethek Halls, but again, looking at what you get for that one quest and that one Sethek Halls run, I'd say it's definitely well worth it. And this is kind of the go-to weapon for most hunters before you go into Shadow Labs and try and get that Sonic Spear, which is pre-rate best in slot. But this is a great kind of middle in-between weapon, if you will, for all you hunters out there that are definitely looking for an upgrade that is fairly easy to get. Because again, this is part of a quest, not part of a drop, so I'd say this is definitely a great item to go for. Now I am going to give you guys an alternative for this, and that is the Crystal Forged War Axe, which is a two-handed axe with 50 stamina, 27 crit rating, and 80 attack power. Now this axe is pretty nice for hunters too. It offers you a little less crit rating than the Terex Quill, but offer you more attack power. However, this is a BOE off the auction house. However, I decided to throw it in there because based on my experience playing Burning Crusade servers, these were usually pretty cheap on the auction house. So I decided to throw it in there. If it's cheap, get this. If not, then go for the Terex Quill. Both, by the way, are great weapons for your hunter. Alright, I'm going to move on to the bow, probably the most important item. And the first one I'm going to recommend is the Longeron Bow of the Tornheart. It's a bow with 2.6 attack speed, 12 agility, and 26 attack power, also 62.9 DPS. So all in all, a great bow for your level 70. However, you do get this from the Cipher of Damnation quest chain, which is part of your Tempest Keep key. So this might not be available on your server. So I'm going to throw in a few alternatives for you to get. And the first alternative is Valinor Longbow, which is a bow with 2.8 attack speed, 10 intellect, 10 crit rating, 22 attack power, and 66.4 DPS. So out of the two, this is definitely the better one. However, this is another BOE item. It is, it completely depends on how expensive this is on the auction house, on the server that you're on. If it's cheap enough, get this. I mean, this is on par with level 70 heroic stuff, apart from maybe one item that you can get. So all in all, if it's cheap, you can bag yourself a lot of bang for buck, so to say, and have yourself a great bow. Because again, this also has a lower attack speed, which means more damage with things like aim shot and multi-shot and all that. And I'm going to throw in a third alternative, because if neither of those are an option, because, well, the Cipher of Damnation quest isn't out yet and the bow is too expensive, you could go for this, which is Ali's Recurve, a bow with 10 stamina, 7 agility, 7 hit rating, 14 attack power, 2.5 attack speed, and 55.6 DPS. So definitely not as good as the other two ones. But, like I said, if the other two are just not an option, then at least you can go for this and get yourself a half-decent bow. Again, it has a faster attack speed, so not really that favorable for hunters. But still, if you're starving for an upgrade and you're still rolling around with some random crossbow or bow from Hellfire Peninsula, you can get yourself this, as it's very easy to obtain. I think it's only one quest chain, so you can check that out in the description below this video. It's pretty easy to obtain, and it's a super cheap alternative to the other bows that I recommended. Alright, for the trinkets, the first one I'm going to recommend is the Blade Fist's Breath, which allows you to get 26 crit rating, and when you use it, you get 200 attack power for 15 seconds with a 1.5 minute cooldown. And the cool thing about this trinket is you can get this fairly early on in Hellfire Peninsula, and it's also a quest chain that most people do when they get to Outland. So while the quest chain is a little lengthy and the last mob requires you to get a few friends to kill him, like I said, most people do this, so finding a few people to get that mob down doesn't take a whole lot of effort, and it's fairly easy to find people for that quest, as pretty much anyone who wants to get geared up probably is going to do this. So that is a great recommendation for the first trinket. Next up is the Core of Arkelos, which is a trinket that offers you 52 attack power, and when you use it, you get 200 extra attack power for both melee and ranged, and it lasts you 20 seconds with a 2-minute cooldown. So it lasts a little longer, but it has a longer cooldown, but overall it's a great trinket. Lots of passive attack power, which is great for hunters. And the cool thing is it's part of a quest chain, but pretty much every quest in that quest chain you can do on your own, so you don't need any outside help. You can do this just fine on your own, and you'll have a pretty nice, sweet trinket for yourself when you completed that. So that is definitely my second recommendation when it comes to trinkets. Next up, rings. First one is going to be the Leaf Beard Ring, which has 12 agility, 12 hit rating, and 38 attack power. So very hard in the offensive stats. Got some agility, got some attack power, and a fair bit of hit rating, which is always nice. And it doesn't take long to get, fairly easy to get, and considering it's a green ring, it actually has some great stats on it. So that is what I would definitely recommend you to get as your first ring. Next ring is the Slayer's Mark of the Redemption, 15 agility, 10 hit rating, and 50 attack power. So kind of the same stats as the previous ring, except this has a lot more stats on it, which makes sense. It's a blue ring. It's also kind of on par what you'll find in level 70 normal dungeons and sometimes even heroics. So picking this up is definitely a good choice. It is part of a decently lengthy quest chain, and it will require you to get a few friends. However, I mean, just look at the ring itself. It's a great reward and well worth your time into doing that quest, as it provides you with a lot of extra DPS, which is also great for when you get into heroics and you have to kill bosses that are a lot more levels above you compared to level 70 normal dungeons. So all in all, a very welcome sight for your new hunter. Now, I'm going to give you guys one more alternative when it comes to the rings, and that is the Pathfinder's Band. It has 25 agility and 34 attack power, so very hard in defensive stats. It provides you with more attack power than the green ring. There is one problem, and that is that it's BOE, so once again, it's kind of dependent on how expensive it is on your auction house. Now, these rings are fairly expensive based on my time playing on Burning Crusade servers, so it really depends on how expensive it is. Usually it is fairly expensive, but if you can find this for cheap, I'd say definitely pick it up. Next up, we're going to go with the boots, and for the boots I'm going to recommend the Fell Boar Hide shoes, which are leather. They provide 18 agility, 15 stamina, 9 hit rating, and 68 attack power. So lots and lots of attack power for your hunter, which is nice. And the funny thing is that you get this out of the Cipher of Damnation quest chain, and this same quest also offers you male gloves with agility and hit rating and all that. However, I do recommend you get these, because when it comes to the gloves, there are some very simple and effective gloves you can pick up compared to boots, which is a little harder. So I'd actually recommend you get these over the male ones. Yes, they provide you with a little bit less armor, but again, this is all about dungeons, PvE stuff, so armor's not going to matter that much. So that's why I would recommend you get these over the male gauntlets. And I mean, just look at the stats. They're still amazing for hunters. They would be even more ideal if they had a little bit of intellect, but you can't have it all, especially at such an early gear level. So this, all in all, is still a great item for your hunter. However, it's part of the Cipher of Damnation quest chain, so I'm going to throw you guys an alternative, which is the Boots of the Skybreaker. A male item with 16 agility, 15 intellect, 22 stamina, and 48 attack power. All in all, great boots. Of course, not as good as the Fellbore Hide shoes. They don't have hits, they don't give you as much attack power, but in return they do give you a little bit of intellect, and they are fairly easy to obtain compared to those Fellbore Hide shoes. So definitely a decent alternative for you to get if you can get those other shoes. And for the leggings, I'm going to go with the Magari Huntsman's leggings. Male leggings with 16 agility, 18 stamina, 12 intellect, 15 hit rating, and 86 attack power. So these leggings are just amazing. They're probably on par with what you can get out of heroic dungeons, so it is well worth getting these. However, there's two sides to this, and one is that it's part of a fairly long quest chain, though I'd say it's still worth it because of just the stats are amazing. And two, it is horde only, so that is a little unfortunate if you're playing an alliance. But don't worry, I'm going to throw you guys an alternative, and that is the Eco Dome leggings. These are leather pants with 23 agility, 34 stamina, 18 hit rating, and 46 attack power. So, definitely not as good as the Magari Huntsman's leggings, which is a little unfortunate. But it was kind of hard finding fairly easy to get green leggings through questing, and this was one of the few options I had. And this is still not too bad for your hunter. Again, if you're rolling around with like fresh outland gear, this is definitely better. It provides you with a decent amount of hit, fair amount of agility, 46 attack power, not bad, and again 34 stamina, not too bad either. Gives you a little bit more longevity, gives you a little bit more survivability. So all in all, they're fairly easy to get, so very easy, quick bang for buck pants. There you go. And for the belt, we're going to go with the Dark Hunter's Kinch, or Chinch, or whatever you pronounce that. Male belt with 10 intellect, 15 stamina, 10 agility, 56 attack power, and 4 mana every 5 seconds. So a pretty nice belt for a green item. Provides you with the base stats that you want, intellect, stamina, agility. Lots of attack power actually on a green item, and a little bit of 4 mana every 5 seconds. I mean, that's always nice to have. Gives you a little bit more longevity when you're doing boss fights and such. So definitely a great item. Not too hard to get either. So all in all, I'd say it's definitely a go-to item for your hunter to get if you're still rolling around with a crappy belt. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about the gloves. And the gloves I recommend are the gloves of the Netherstalker. They are leather, yes, that's true, but just look at the stats. 12 stamina, 16 agility, 8 hit rating, and 60 attack power, which definitely not too shabby for green leather gloves that you can get fairly easy on. And I've compared this to the blue item you can get through the Cipher of Damnation quest chain, and those blue gloves aren't even that much better than these, so that's why I recommend you to get these for the gloves item. You know, fairly easy and great gloves to have, and have the Felbor Hide shoes, which both combined offer you with some great offensive stats, and will allow you to do some really nice DPS. So those are the items I recommend for your fresh level 70 hunter. And after all those gear upgrades, we've drastically improved almost every single stat we have. Our shots do more damage, we have a lot more attack power, a ton more hit rating, and a 1.5% increased crit chance. Our bow speed is a little bit faster, which is not ideal as slower range weapons are better, but all things considered, this is a huge improvement over what we had before. So what does all that gear and all those stats mean in terms of DPS? Well, before we did a very mediocre 480.8 DPS, and now we're doing a much more respectable and competitive 686 DPS, which is an increase of 42.67%. So as you can see, with only a couple of quests and very little money invested, as we didn't make any super expensive craftable gear or bought epics off the auction house, we drastically increased our DPS and made sure we can give the other DPSers in our future groups a run for their money. And that's all for today. As always, I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm Hamsterwheel, and have a good one.